Riku Miura looked straight at Ryuichi Kihara and said something that instantly made everyone in the room laugh. "You could be a little kinder to me, you know." It happened during an exclusive TV Tokyo interview while the two of them were sitting side by side in front of the cameras. She didn't hesitate. She didn't soften the words or pretend she was joking just to avoid the moment. She said them openly to the partner who had shared every triumph, every setback, and every ordinary day with her for 7 years. Ryuichi's response was just a quiet smile, the kind of embarrassed grin that says more than any explanation ever could. He didn't argue. He didn't deny it. He simply accepted the comment, almost as if he already knew it was true. Most viewers probably smiled and moved on, treating it as another funny exchange between two athletes who had grown comfortable teasing each other. But hidden inside that single sentence was something much deeper. If someone stays beside another person for 7 years despite saying, "You could be a little kinder," then kindness must have existed in a completely different form. That is the story worth telling. Because sometimes the strongest expressions of care are the ones that never sound gentle at all. To understand why those words mattered, we first have to look at the moment they were spoken. The interview wasn't focused on competitions or medals. TV Tokyo had followed Rikuryu during a promotional shoot for their new skating costumes, creating a relaxed conversation centered on everyday life rather than technical performances. The cameras captured stories about playful pranks during the NHK Trophy, memories from their years living in Canada, and countless moments that made both of them burst into laughter. Then, in the middle of those light-hearted memories, Riku casually delivered the line that everyone remembers. "You could be a little kinder to me." The remarkable part wasn't the sentence itself. It was the fact that she felt comfortable saying it in front of national television. People don't speak that way to someone they genuinely resent. Real frustration usually sounds sharper, colder, or remains completely unspoken. Her words carried warmth rather than anger. There was humor behind them instead of bitterness. They came from someone who knew she would be understood without needing to explain herself. That level of honesty doesn't appear overnight. It is built over years of trust, shared experiences, and countless moments when actions quietly proved what words never had to say. The relationship between Riku and Ryuichi had reached a place where uncomfortable truths could be spoken with a smile because both of them already understood what lived underneath those words. To understand why Riku said it so naturally, we also have to understand the kind of person Ryuichi Kihara has always been. Throughout his career, coaches and teammates described him as someone who demanded precision. Training under legendary coach Bruno Marcotte meant chasing perfection measured in millimeters rather than centimeters. Pair skating leaves no room for hesitation. Every lift, every landing, every synchronized edge carries the possibility of injury if timing slips even slightly. That environment shaped Ryuichi into an athlete who rarely accepted good enough. During practice, he expected complete focus from himself and from his partner. Mistakes were corrected immediately. Details were repeated until they became second nature. To someone watching from the outside, that intensity could easily look cold. Yet there is another side of Ryuichi that has quietly appeared again and again through people who knew him long before Riku entered his life. Former pair skating partner Narumi Takahashi once described him in a way that sounds almost identical to Riku's playful complaint. She explained that behind the scenes he was incredibly kind, but in front of other people he almost never showed it. She even admitted thinking, "You could let people see that side of you a little more." Those words echoed across completely different periods of his life, spoken years apart by two different partners. That repetition reveals something important. It wasn't Riku misunderstanding Ryuichi. It wasn't a phase. It was simply who he had always been. Publicly reserved, privately thoughtful, quiet with compliments, but generous with actions. Narumi shared an example that perfectly illustrated this hidden side of his personality. Even on days when he didn't have his own training session, Ryuichi would drive to pick her up, take her to the rink, and make sure she arrived safely before leaving again. He never made a big announcement about it. He never expected praise or attention. He simply did what needed to be done because he believed helping someone mattered more than talking about helping them. Years later, Riku experienced almost exactly the same thing. Morning after morning, Ryuichi drove her to practice during their years in Canada. The routine became so ordinary that outsiders rarely noticed it, but ordinary routines often reveal extraordinary character. His kindness wasn't packaged in affectionate speeches or dramatic gestures. It appeared through consistency, through reliability, through showing up every single day without asking for recognition. That pattern raises an interesting question about the different ways people express care. Some people speak love fluently. They encourage others with reassuring words, celebrate accomplishments loudly, and constantly remind people how much they matter. Others communicate through actions instead. They cook meals after exhausting days. They drive long distances without complaining. They quietly solve problems before anyone else notices them. They remember birthdays with thoughtful gifts rather than emotional speeches. Their affection is hidden inside habits instead of conversations. Ryuichi clearly belonged to the second group. Throughout their partnership, examples quietly accumulated. He picked Riku up every morning. He prepared meals after long training sessions. He visited her family despite struggling with cat allergies. He gave practical gifts like a rice cooker because he wanted daily life to become a little easier for her. None of those moments sounded romantic or dramatic when viewed individually. Yet together they created a language that didn't require many words. Every action carried the same message. I'm here. You can depend on me. I'll take care of what I can. Meanwhile, Riku's playful complaint revealed something equally meaningful. She wasn't asking for different actions. She was asking for different expressions. She wanted encouragement spoken out loud. She wanted praise that wasn't hidden behind strict corrections during practice. She wanted the gentle side he kept private to occasionally appear in front of everyone else. Her request wasn't unreasonable. Most people long to hear appreciation expressed directly. Compliments stay in our memories because they acknowledge emotions that actions sometimes leave unspoken. Yet what makes this story so compelling is that Riku already understood the language Ryuichi spoke. She had been reading it for 7 years. She knew every early morning pickup, every home-cooked meal, every quiet sacrifice carried affection even when the words never came. That is why her complaint sounded affectionate rather than painful. She wasn't questioning whether he cared. She was simply asking him to translate those feelings into words once in a while. The remarkable thing is that she never stopped standing beside him while waiting for that translation. Many relationships collapse because people only recognize the kind of affection they personally prefer. Riku chose instead to understand the language Ryuichi naturally spoke, even while gently encouraging him to learn hers. That balance may have become one of the strongest foundations beneath everything they achieved together on and off the ice. One of the phrases Riku and Ryuichi have repeated over the years is that they argue all the time. At first glance, that might sound like a warning sign. But in reality, there are two very different kinds of relationships. One is filled with silence, where people carefully avoid difficult conversations because they fear conflict or rejection. The other is built on enough trust that disagreements become safe. In those relationships, people can express frustration without worrying that honesty will destroy what they have. Riku's comment, "You could be a little kinder to me," belonged to that second category. She wasn't afraid of hurting Ryuichi's feelings because she already knew the foundation beneath them was strong enough to hold the conversation. She could tease him because she trusted him. She could criticize him because she believed he would understand the heart behind the words. That level of security cannot be created through victories alone. It is earned through thousands of ordinary days that quietly prove someone will still be there tomorrow. Looking at it from another perspective makes the moment even more meaningful. Imagine if Ryuichi had truly been a cold or uncaring person. Would Riku ever have said those words on camera? Probably not. People rarely tell someone genuinely intimidating to be a little kinder. They stay quiet. They protect themselves. They choose distance over vulnerability. The very fact that Riku could say it so casually revealed something invisible to most viewers. She trusted the person sitting beside her completely. Beneath the playful complaint was an unspoken certainty. I know who you really are. That certainty only exists when years of actions have already answered every important question. Another story from Ryuichi's past reinforces this picture perfectly. Former partner Narumi Takahashi once revealed something many people found surprising. Even after spending more than a decade training overseas in Canada and the United States, Ryuichi still struggled with English. For someone who had lived abroad for so long, many expected him to speak fluently. Instead, Narumi laughed and admitted that his language skills never developed the way people assumed they would. Yet immediately after mentioning that weakness, she shared something far more revealing. Despite the language barrier, Ryuichi was constantly surrounded by international friends. People from different countries naturally gravitated toward him. That raises an obvious question. How does someone who struggles with communication build friendships across cultures? The answer wasn't found in vocabulary. It was found in behavior. Narumi explained that Ryuichi rarely talked about everything he had done for others. He never announced his sacrifices or sought recognition. Instead, he quietly kept working, helping, and supporting people without expecting applause. Actions became his native language long before words ever could. Kindness doesn't always require perfect sentences. Sometimes consistency speaks far louder than conversation. People trusted him because they experienced his character rather than simply hearing him describe it. Looking back at Riku's famous comment through that lens changes its meaning completely. You could be a little kinder to me. She wasn't speaking to someone incapable of kindness. She was speaking to someone whose kindness had always been expressed through movement instead of language. Every early morning drive, every shared meal after exhausting practices, every visit during difficult moments, every quiet act of support had already answered her complaint before she ever said it. What she wanted wasn't proof that he cared. She already had 7 years of proof. What she hoped for was simply to hear it more often, to see that hidden warmth become visible, to let the rest of the world witness the person she had already come to know. That is why Ryuichi's reaction during the interview is so fascinating. When Riku smiled and delivered her line, he didn't interrupt her. He didn't laugh it away or defend himself by listing everything he had done. He simply smiled with a mixture of embarrassment and understanding. That tiny expression may have revealed more than a lengthy explanation ever could. It was almost as if he silently admitted, "You're right. I know I don't always show it." There was no denial because there was nothing to deny. Deep down, he understood his own personality. He knew he struggled to express affection publicly. Perhaps he found it embarrassing. Perhaps years of elite competition had taught him to hide emotion and remain disciplined. Perhaps he simply believed actions should always matter more than speeches. Whatever the reason, he accepted Riku's observation because it reflected the truth. Yet hidden inside that quiet smile may have been another emotion as well: gratitude. Gratitude toward the person who had spent 7 years understanding him without demanding that he become someone completely different. Riku never asked him to stop being himself. She only encouraged him to let people see a little more of the warmth she already experienced every day. That distinction matters. Real trust doesn't force someone to change their personality overnight. It gently invites growth while accepting who they already are. Watching this story unfold also encourages us to ask ourselves an uncomfortable question. Is there anyone in our own lives we could honestly say, "You could be a little kinder to me," without fearing the relationship would fall apart? For many people, the answer is surprisingly difficult. We cannot say those words to a strict boss. We hesitate to say them to casual acquaintances. Even among friends, many conversations remain carefully filtered because we worry about creating tension. Honest vulnerability requires enormous trust. Before someone can voice a complaint, they first need confidence that they will still be accepted afterward. That confidence is exactly what Riku had built with Ryuichi over 7 remarkable years. Every ride to the rink, every meal prepared after practice, every difficult conversation, every shared disappointment, and every celebration quietly reinforced one message: no matter what happens, we're still on the same side. Those experiences gave Riku the freedom to speak openly without fear. In that sense, her famous line wasn't evidence of dissatisfaction at all. It was evidence of emotional safety. She knew their connection was strong enough to survive honesty. In fact, honesty became another way of strengthening it. There is another fascinating layer to this story when we consider how people evolve because of those closest to them. Narumi Takahashi once described Ryuichi as someone who had always possessed the qualities of a gentleman, even if he rarely displayed them openly. Years later, after watching his partnership with Riku develop, she observed something different. She remarked that he had become far more open and gentlemanly in public than before. That observation carries enormous significance because it came from someone who had known him long before Riku entered his life. She wasn't comparing him to other athletes. She was comparing him to his younger self. In other words, change had happened. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. Over 7 years, the walls Ryuichi naturally kept around his emotions had begun to lower. He still wasn't someone who constantly expressed affection with words. He still carried the quiet personality that defined him throughout his career. But little by little, pieces of that hidden kindness became visible to everyone else. It is tempting to believe that people either change completely or never change at all. Real life rarely works that way. Most meaningful transformation happens slowly, almost invisibly, shaped by everyday interactions rather than life-changing speeches. Perhaps every time Riku joked that he should be a little kinder, she wasn't criticizing him. Perhaps she was gently inviting him to become a slightly more open version of the person he already was. Looking back now, it seems that invitation was quietly accepted, one small step at a time. And by the end of their journey together, even people who had known Ryuichi for years could see the difference be why the time the world watched Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara announce the end of their competitive careers, something had undeniably changed. During their retirement press conference on April 28, 2026, Ryuichi struggled to hold back tears almost from the very beginning. Wiping his eyes, he admitted that he honestly hadn't expected himself to cry so quickly. Sitting beside him, Riku smiled warmly before teasing him with perfect timing. "Isn't it a little early to start crying?" The room laughed, but beneath that light-hearted exchange was another remarkable chapter in a story that had been unfolding for 7 years. Once upon a time, Ryuichi had been the older, more experienced partner who naturally took on the role of protector. He was the one guiding the younger skater who had crossed an ocean to chase an impossible dream. Now the roles seemed to flow effortlessly in the opposite direction. As Ryuichi's emotions overflowed, Riku became the calm presence beside him, reassuring him with nothing more than a smile. It wasn't that their positions had permanently reversed. Instead, their partnership had reached something far more meaningful. They had learned that strength isn't fixed. Sometimes one person carries the other. Sometimes those roles switch without either of them needing to ask. That quiet flexibility may have become the greatest achievement of their entire partnership. Looking back, Riku's playful request to be a little kinder suddenly feels completely different. It was never about demanding a different person. It was about encouraging Ryuichi to let his emotions become visible when the time was right. Years later, the man who once hid nearly every feeling couldn't stop tears from falling in front of the entire world. The walls he had carefully built throughout his career had finally opened, not because he had become weak, but because he had found someone safe enough to see everything behind them. The deeper you examine their journey, the clearer it becomes that the famous interview line was never an expression of disappointment. It was a confirmation of trust. Disappointment grows when expectations are broken. Trust grows when expectations are fulfilled so consistently that people feel comfortable asking for just a little more. Riku knew exactly who Ryuichi was. She had known since the summer of 2019, when a 17-year-old skater arrived in Canada to partner with a 26-year-old Olympian whose first impression was anything but approachable. In later interviews, she admitted that he initially seemed difficult to talk to. He was older, more experienced, and already respected throughout Japanese figure skating. For a teenager entering that environment, beginning a conversation required courage. Yet she did speak to him. More importantly, she stayed beside him for 7 years. Eventually, she would look back on that decision and say she was truly glad she had become his partner. Those words carry enormous weight because they were earned, not assumed. Between that nervous first meeting and those grateful reflections stood thousands of hours on the ice. Endless repetitions. Difficult corrections. Failed lifts. perfect lifts, injuries, recoveries, victories, heartbreak. Every difficult day became another layer of understanding. Every demanding practice gradually revealed that Ryuichi's strict standards were never rooted in criticism. They were rooted in belief. People don't demand excellence from someone they think will fail. They demand excellence from someone whose potential they genuinely believe in. That realization changes everything. Ryuichi pushed Riku because he believed she could reach places neither of them had seen yet. His expectations weren't barriers. They were evidence of confidence. Looking at it through that perspective, his strictness becomes another form of encouragement. Not the comforting kind expressed through compliments, but the challenging kind expressed through expectations. Riku eventually learned to recognize that language just as clearly as she recognized his quiet acts of kindness. Somewhere along the way, she also discovered something even more valuable. Behind every demanding correction was someone constantly searching for ways to lift her confidence whenever it truly mattered. When practices became frustrating and emotions ran low, Ryuichi knew how to help her refocus. Sometimes that support came through advice. Sometimes through practical solutions. Sometimes simply through refusing to let either of them give up. His encouragement rarely sounded sentimental, yet it consistently arrived when it was needed most. That balance between discipline and support became one of the invisible foundations beneath every medal they eventually earned together. Perhaps that is why Riku could joke about wanting more verbal kindness while never doubting the kindness that already surrounded her every single day. She understood that his love for the partnership had never been missing. It had simply been translated into a different language. Then came the greatest test of everything they had built together. At the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina, their dreams appeared to unravel during the short program. A costly lift mistake left them sitting in 5th place, far below where they had hoped to be. For athletes who had spent years chasing Olympic gold, the result was devastating. When the performance ended, Ryuichi could barely process what had happened. Cameras captured him covering his face, overwhelmed by emotion. Later, he admitted that despair was all he could feel. Throughout that night and even into the following morning, the tears refused to stop. He confessed that he found himself crying without even understanding why. Something inside him had completely broken. It was a side of Ryuichi almost nobody had ever witnessed. The man who normally carried every burden in silence suddenly couldn't contain his emotions anymore. Watching someone so composed lose control can be shocking, but for Riku it was unfamiliar in another way. She later admitted that this wasn't the Ryuichi she had known for 7 years. Seeing him cry so openly left her unsure how to react at first because it simply wasn't part of his personality. Yet instead of panicking, she relied on everything they had already built together. She didn't offer empty motivational speeches or dramatic promises. She reminded him of facts. They had prepared for this moment. They had trained together for years. One disappointing performance could not erase everything they had already accomplished. Then she did something deeply personal. She placed a handwritten message inside the familiar Ziploc bag they always carried with a small prayer. Her note was simple but powerful. "We can absolutely do this. We've already put in the work." Those words weren't wishful thinking. They were a reminder of reality. When Ryuichi opened the bag and read her message, he cried once more. Later, he would say those were the final tears he shed before washing his face, collecting himself, and deciding that from that moment forward he was going back onto the ice to fight. That handwritten message became the turning point. The emotional collapse that had begun after the short program ended with those few handwritten lines. Everything that followed grew from the trust built long before the Olympics ever began. The next day, they delivered one of the most unforgettable free skates of their careers, producing a performance that rewrote the ending of their Olympic story. Before the historic score, before the celebration, before the medals, there was a simple plastic bag carrying a handwritten reminder that 7 years of work could never disappear overnight. That quiet moment may never appear on a scoreboard, yet without it, the ending the world remembers might never have happened.